I mean, starting with Rockefeller, all of this health care, which is a guise of trying to help people, has been for money. And it's now spiraled out of control to the point where we're injecting the entire planet's population with a vaccine that we know did more harm than good.
Hey friends, welcome back. Thanks so much for being here. Sean from SGT Report. That was Kim Bright, a friend of the show. And before we start, I just want to address a comment or two under my latest video. This from Daria. She says, "This is what's dividing the MAGA movement. Please, Sean, don't go there." Well, unfortunately, Daria, I have to go there because I'm honest and I tell the truth. And the chasm right now in MAGA has been caused in large part by Donald J. Trump and this administration. Three things. The cover-up of the assassination of Charlie Kirk. We know that's going on, 100% full stop fact. Burying the Epstein files and never bringing anybody to justice who took part in the children that were trafficked through Epstein. And number three, bending the knee to Bibi. And a bonus number four, Bongino declaring war on those of us who have been blackpilled, those of us that would dare to speak about the things I just mentioned. Daria, those are the things that are causing the schism in MAGA. And I talk about this and much, much more with Kim Bright, who always has a very bright point of view. She sees our cup as half full. So I hope you guys enjoy this one. Thanks for being here. Before we start, just a quick word about a valued sponsor. If you're over 40 and planning to retire someday, the window to protect what you've built may be smaller than you realize. Here's a question most people never ask. Is your portfolio built for what's coming next? The debasement of our currency? Many investors in their 40s and 50s discover they have little to no exposure to precious metals. That means their savings are largely tied to markets, policies, and paper assets with very little real protection if conditions change. As retirement moves from someday to on the horizon for you, protecting what you've already built becomes just as important as growing it. That's where Noble Gold Investments comes in, helping investors reduce risk by adding physical gold and or silver to their portfolios. Right now is a smart time to talk with Noble Gold Investments. This isn't investment advice. Do your own due diligence. But we can promise you this: no pressure, no sales gimmicks, just clear answers and a strategy built around your goals. And for a limited time, you can receive this 3-ounce American Virtues Independence Silver Round as a bonus available for new qualified accounts. Visit noblegoldinvestments.com and build your portfolio for the long term. That's noblegoldinvestments.com. The link is below. Hey friends, welcome back. Thanks so much for being here. Sean from SGT Report. Kim Bright will be jumping on the call here in just a minute, but what I wanted to do before Kim joins the call is just level set for folks. I noticed some pretty rude comments over on Rumble under my last interview, and a lot of people are on Team MAGA, no matter what Team MAGA does, no matter what Trump does, and I get it. It's like having a favorite football team. Case in point, Dan Bongino. Okay, a star player on MAGA, right? He goes to work for the FBI and does nothing. No arrests, and now he's going back to his $5 million a year podcast, and he's declaring war on those who are blackpilled. Anybody that would dare question the Charlie Kirk assassination cover-up, or the Epstein files being buried, or Donald Trump bending the knee to Bibi Netanyahu and Mark Levin. Anybody who bumps on those things is now blackpilled and must be destroyed, according to Bongino. So I would just say it's a little bit like having a favorite player in the NFL on your favorite team, and then your team trades that player to another team. Do you go with the player or do you stay with the team? Or do you realize the whole thing is corrupt? Ladies and gentlemen, the gloves are coming off. World War IV is here. As the U.S. tries to seize a Venezuelan oil tanker, Russia responds with a submarine. Folks, the gloves are off. The rules-based order coming out of Bretton Woods, dollars for oil, that's all falling apart. So you can pick your team and stay on Team MAGA, but just know those three things I mentioned, those are the things that are dividing MAGA, not me being the messenger and telling you the truth about those things. So Kim is here, guys. Kim, welcome to the show. It's great to have you. Actually, let me end my screen share. Happy holidays. Good to see you.
Yeah, well, I'm glad you had good ones. I did too. Thank you. Nice to be back.
Happy New Year. So 2026 and things are heating up. And What I just wanted to do here before we get started is just paint the picture for folks that what's going on with the chasm in MAGA is very real, and the rules-based order is falling apart as World War IV seems to be upon us. And I just want people to realize that when $1 trillion a year goes to the Pentagon, well, you kind of know that that's become a nation state onto itself. The other thing I wanted to mention is, folks, you ever wonder why so many people feel so broke? $6 in constitutional money, that's pre-1965 money, is now worth like $350 in melt. And to that end, I wanted to talk about life expectancy versus healthcare spending in the United States and the healthcare industry in general. Are they out to get us or are they out to help us? Spot the odd one out. Zero Hedge reporting life expectancy versus healthcare spending. It's not going well for us, folks. The U.S. spends more than twice as much per capita on healthcare as other high-income countries, yet we have a lower life expectancy. Now, think about that. Why do some people in Japan live to over 100 years old? What is the secret here, folks? Because whatever we're doing in the United States isn't working very darn well. Do you think I have that queued up fairly well, Kim? Because you sent me some slides and some clips, and they're staggering.
Well, I think that we are, we've been led down a path of sickness for a long, long time, and it all started with good old John D. Rockefeller.
Ain't that the truth? By the way, guys, just to remind you, Kim Bright is the founder of Brightcore, mybrightcore.com. I take Kamichi 1 every single day. I take the sweet wheat as well. And I think maybe where we should start, do you want to cue this clip up? Kim, it's really important that people understand that the FDA was not always a revolving door, sort of controlled by the same corporations that it's tasked to regulate. Do you want to set this clip up regarding Dr. Frances Kelsey?
Well, basically, she saved us from getting a lot of deformities in the United States because she was the first one to say no to drug companies on one of the drugs that they brought out, and they kept coming back to her asking, oh, you've got to okay this so we can release it commercially. And she kept looking into it. And I'll tell you, over in Europe, they had over 10,000 people have deformities. They had arms growing out of their shoulders. They had feet growing out of their hips. They had deformed hands at the end of their arms from this drug. And some of them only took the drug one time. And it was for pregnant women that were having morning sickness or other complications. And it was very, very devastating. And she stood up to Big Pharma and said no. And so she saved tens of thousands, if not more, in the United States from, this type of situation of giving birth to babies like this. So she is a real hero. And, they haven't been around much since. Now we've got RFK Jr., but Dr. Frances Kelsey was incredible. I mean, she was the last of her kind at the FDA. And so why is it that Kelsey's predecessors failed to fight like she did for the people? I mean, it's something called regulatory capture. And that is when a government agency that's meant to serve the public starts prioritizing the commercial or political interests of the industry that it's supposed to be regulating. Effectively, they become controlled by that industry. And this leads to decisions that benefit the few in Big Pharma and their deep pockets over the many of us that are supposed to be being helped by this.
Yeah, regulatory capture. Do you think I take it too far to describe that as fascism? Okay, it's sort of the revolving door between corporations, privately owned corporations, or I guess public corporations given stocks, but corporations in bed with government. That's sort of Mussolini's classic definition of fascism, is it not?
As far as I remember.
Yeah. Well, I just think it's very interesting just to point out that the FDA was not always quite as captured as it is today. Listen to this.
In the early 1960s, the pharmaceutical company behind the drug thalidomide tried to convince Dr. Frances Kelsey, a scientist from the Food and Drugs Administration, to approve their drug.
A stubborn stickler of a medical officer in the Food and Drug Administration, Dr. Frances Kelsey, She refused to approve sale of the drug in the United States.
Thalidomide was eventually blamed for causing birth defects in tens of thousands of children around the world, with many more dying at birth. Thanks to the diligence of Dr. Kelsey and the FDA, children in the US were spared. The FDA has a tough job. It needs to ensure that drugs are safe. The decision it makes are life-altering, in most cases for the best. But not always. FDA failures have been blamed for contributing to the opioid epidemic.
She's overdosed.
And giving false hope to Alzheimer's patients by approving a costly and unproven drug.
This is in fact a tremendous controversy in the scientific and medical world.
Unlike the time when Dr. Kelsey worked at the FDA, the federal agency is now much cozier with the industry it is supposed to regulate.
It's a powerful clip because in the 1960s, we were just beginning to hit the slippery slope into this kind of despotism of total regulatory capture. And I think it's interesting that you mentioned Rockefeller, because as I watched that clip, Kim, of little kids being injected with needles, it just makes me realize that that's new in human history. We survived thousands of years as human beings without having injections in our arms. When did it all change? And why did you bring up Rockefeller specifically?
Well, let me explain how these dark origins have evolved into the corrupt monster that Big Pharma is today. John D. Rockefeller became America's first billionaire in 1913. And let me put that in context. $1 billion back then would be more like $400 billion today, which would essentially make him the richest man in the world today. John D. Rockefeller was known for his oil empire, but yet he saw another opportunity to monopolize a growing industry, medicine. And so Rockefeller realized that medicines could be made from his oil. He pushed for the downfall of holistic treatments, and he made sure that the prescription drugs became the new norm. And if you think about it, Rockefeller's plan was brilliant from a business standpoint, not from helping people standpoint, but from a business standpoint. He would create a pill or have a pill created from his oil or petroleum for every ill and keep people coming back for more. He put them on a hamster wheel because he would be addressing symptoms rather than the cause. Now, let's go back to late 1800s to 1913. That's when Rockefeller and the birth of corporate medicine started. He was born in 1839, died in 1937. He founded the Rockefeller Institute for Medical Research in 1901 and the Rockefeller Foundation in 1913. And he used the guise of strategic philanthropy to shape or reshape Western medicine. Now, what he did was he was promoting laboratory-based drug-centered medicine, as I mentioned, excuse me, and he marginalized and demonized, if you will, competing approaches that have been around for centuries: herbalism, homeopathy, and holistic treatments. I mean, let's take, for instance, a natural remedy that's been around since ancient Egypt, which is an antimicrobial. It's copper, and it kills germs and viruses. And he labeled that outdated, and it got pushed aside. And doctors were now being trained in pharmaceuticals, not permanent solutions. And, the truth of the matter is copper has never stopped working. It is still killing 99.97% of bacteria and viruses. It wasn't simply, but it was just simply forgotten in medicine. And the pharmaceutical industry had no incentive to remind anyone because they couldn't make money off of it. They couldn't patent it. So then we come to the 1920s and the 1940s, and that's the rise of the pharmaceutical industry. Oil and chemical companies are now moving into synthetic drugs, the manufacturing of those, and patenting medicines. Now, here's another sidebar. Natural remedies can't be patented. So again, there's not huge money in that for anybody. But synthetic drugs from petroleum products can be patented. So this caused a major incentive shift. So you either cure somebody, which equals a one-time customer, which doesn't result in bazillions of dollars for pharmaceutical industry, or you approach with a chronic treatment where you develop reoccurring revenue. Now we come to 1938 through the 1960s, and regulations becoming what's called regulatory capture. Now, the FDA has now become a gatekeeper that's dependent on the industry that it's regulating or supposedly regulating after drug safety scandals. And the pharmaceutical companies became the main funders of clinical trials. And the FDA became increasingly staffed by former big pharma executives and future pharma consultants. The FDA, they played the police for the public for a short period of time. And one of the last people who stood on principles to protect the public was who we just spoke about, Dr. Frances Kelsey. So 1970 rolls around after Dr. Kelsey did what she did, and corporate medicine goes global now. So we now have a new level of funding for drug-based research beginning. The pharma companies began lobbying aggressively. And of course, they became the biggest lobbyist in DC, and they start tightening their grip on government agencies and officials, through all kinds of methods. Their advertising budgets explode, and medicine now becomes such a big growth industry. It's not just a health service. Now we go to 1980s. We have patents on life. We had the Bayh-Dole Act of 1980, which now allowed private companies and universities to patent publicly funded research with a bias towards profitable treatments. Now, these universities then partnered with the pharma indoctrinating medical professionals from the infancy of their medical education. And so what do we have? We have the public paying twice, funding the research first, and then turning around and buying the drugs. Then we have 1990s, and that's when we had direct-to-consumer advertising. That's the first time in 1997 the U.S. legalized pharma ads on TV, and that was only done here in the United States and New Zealand. Now, that allowed people to constantly hear about these specific drugs, and so they start going to their doctors and asking for these specific drugs. And then the doctors are pressured by the patients plus the pharmaceutical reps. So now we have an enormous amount, by that point, of big pharma corruption.
Yeah, 1,000%. And that sets us up nicely for a clip featuring Lisa Prada, a big pharma sales rep for 32 years. And before I play the clip, I just want to point out to folks that what we are currently going through, guys, can be called the Great Awakening or maybe the Great Noticing, because even the sheeple people are starting to wake up and go, wait a minute, why can't I pay my bills? Ever wonder why so many people feel broke? As I said before, they took the precious metals out of our money. And the reason I bring this up again, Kim, is because the Great Noticing to me is this: vaccines, pills, and paper money versus B17, Kamichi 1, and silver and gold, right? It's a very stark dichotomy between these two things, sort of the fake world versus returning to the real world. And that's the only way we will ever return to health, is if we can throw off the chains of this corruption. Guys, it's even worse than you think. Here's Lisa Prada.
It went from golfing to renting a box for a big concert to Phillies games, Eagles games, strip clubs, lap dances, you name it, they received it as gifts and bribes. My name is Lisa Prada. I was pharmaceutical sales rep for 32 years. Acthar was approved for 4 vials for 20 days. Each vial is 5 days. But QuestCore wanted it for 5 days, which is 1 vial, in order to get approval for Medicare, Medicaid, and the other insurance companies. I knew in my heart that was off-label, and I knew that the patients were never going to get better and they were going to progress downward in their disease and get worse. I want to bring QuestCore to their knees for what they've done to these MS patients.
So this is new to me. This must be a drug for multiple sclerosis. Is that what we're talking about here, Kim?
Yes, it was a drug for multiple sclerosis, and this was this was a while ago. And she saw how they worked it, or the system. So it really, in order to help a person with MS, you needed those 4 vials, which They then reduced down to one so they could get it approved by Medicare and Medicaid. So this is so incredible. And could you go ahead and finish the rest of that video for me, please?
Yeah, by all means, by all means. This is new to me, and I just think it's really interesting because we saw much of the same stuff happen in 2020 with the rollout of, what I call a bioweapon. Again, fast tracking things that they know are not safe, really for money and maybe even for more nefarious purposes.
Every day, in my dreams, it's tough. It's hard, but I had to be strong, and I did, and I think I got justice for these patients. The CEOs who own the company rolled it, made a ton of money, and they're still working in a big capacity at other companies. The original people that I worked with in 2010, about a half are still there with the company. The other half have moved on to other companies in different positions. They're still in some capacity working in the pharma industry. They had no qualms doing bribes and kickbacks. All us Americans are a means to an end for these corporations. We are getting sick at the expense of a CEO somewhere in Italy laughing at all of us because we're suckers. That infuriates me, and every person in the United States should demand change.
Okay, I have so much to say about this because I think what's happening with the division in the MAGA movement right now is a self-inflicted wound because people feel like suckers. Guys, this all ties in together. And what I love so much about Kim is she's willing to talk about these challenging subjects because look, we all feel like suckers. Kim, right now there's a lot of talk on X about a tax revolt in April because people feel so sold out as we watch Minnesota be looted by the governor in the Somali community. There's a lot more to that story. We're seeing it in Ohio, Pennsylvania, all the blue states. The corruption is so far worse than any of us really ever even imagined a few years ago that people feel like suckers. I think she's got that exactly right. Not only do we demand change, we require change, and it's got to happen. And since we don't really see it happening, we don't see any domestic arrests of high-level criminals like Anthony Fauci, people feel like suckers right now, Kim.
Well, I think you're right on that. But I think we need to be patient. I think the wheels are turning. Again, I ask people to look at what Trump inherited. And it is such a deep swamp, and he is trying to climb out of it. And that's what I would ask people to look at. But I also want people to see this woman had a moral code. Here she is deep in the depths of big pharma, and she has, the ability to see what was happening and how their whole intent was not to help people. Their whole intent was the bottom line. And so under the guise of helping people. So this is just really something. And it goes back to Rockefeller's intent. I mean, starting with Rockefeller, all of this health care, which is a guise of trying to help people, has been for money. And it's now spiraled out of control to the point where we're injecting the entire planet's population with a vaccine that we know did more harm than good. I'm talking about, COVID-19 shots. Rockefeller their foundation invested, multi-millions of dollars to get COVID shots in the arms of all of these countries that supposedly had the poorest of people.
Let me just say one thing, just referring to the clip we just watched of Lisa Prada. You're right. It occurs to both of us that she never lost her soul. She was one of the people working in big pharma who felt it hit her soul once she realized how corrupt everything was. And there aren't many people like that. I will cite somebody else who paid a heavy price for telling the truth. A similar situation with Brandy Vaughn, the Merck whistleblower, who I think paid the ultimate price. She lost her life for speaking truth. She said, "I would never kill myself." And she wound up dead inside her locked home. Nobody seems to know how that happened. Brandy Vaughn, rest in peace. There are good people out there, but it kind of seems sometimes, Kim, that there are more bad people than good people. And I think that's sort of the dichotomy of being a human being on this planet. It's always this battle between good and evil. It lives within all of us. It's surprising to me, though, to see how few people choose the side of light. So many people right now are taking the paycheck.
Yeah. And I think that that's been normalized. And I think people have to dig very deep down into their souls and find, their connection to God again. I mean, the whole thing goes back to, if we look at when Rockefeller started changing, towards being money oriented, and medicine being money oriented, they spent $55 million $55 million on injecting all these people, trying to get in everybody's body, the COVID vaccine in, Asia, in the Caribbean, in Africa. So, we now know how the pharmaceutical companies operate. And, I don't think that the Rockefellers gave 55 million out of their own pockets. No, this is something they raised and, for the greater good of humanity. So I really want to point out something very curious here about the Rockefeller Foundation's logo. I mean, if you look at their logo, what are they actually trying to do here? It kind of looks like, there's some pieces missing off the globe. Maybe it's about depopulation. I don't know. It's a thought. But we know that the FDA has acknowledged 10 deaths from the COVID vaccine. And we know that number is not even close. Right, Sean? I mean, that's insane.
Say that again. Let that sink in, because that shocks me. To even hear you say that shocks me. Restate that. How many deaths, according to the FDA?
The FDA has acknowledged 10 children's deaths from the COVID vaccine.
10. Okay. Welcome to Upside Down World, guys. 10 deaths attributed to the bioweapon masquerading as a vaccine. Okay. Well, Albert Bourla and Tony Fauci walk free. See, this is why there is a bit of a divide in the MAGA base right now. It's because we're not seeing the arrests of the domestic criminals that were part and parcel to this entire strategy, and I would call it that, a strategy. Now, sometimes I see Dr. McCullough maligned, which I think is a little bit absurd, because he's one of those frontline doctors that was out there telling the truth about how dangerous this thing is, the COVID-19 quote-unquote vaccine. Should I play the testimony? Do you want me to play this right now, Dr. McCullough's testimony?
Yeah, that would be great.
Okay,
yeah, that would be great.
All right, here's Dr. McCullough's testimony before Senator Ron Johnson's committee.
Presented at the FDA advisory meetings. I've advised companies for decades on this, so I know the regulatory science very well. When a product definitely results in death, and there are thousands of peer-reviewed papers on this, Governor, the COVID vaccines in some people, sadly, result in death. Some on the very first day they take the shot.
I mean, what do you think of the, 38,607 right now listed on VAERS? What do you think the real number is? And do you have any science to back up your opinion?
The best data are autopsies. So in the largest autopsy series published to date, I know because I'm the senior author, of all the deaths we examined, and we re-reviewed them. We had an adjudication committee. We had ways of arbitration deciding on, did the vaccine cause death? The answer is, of these cases that came in for autopsy after vaccination, 73.9% of individuals, it was determined that the vaccine was the cause of death.
Okay, that's so shocking, but we live in a country where all of that gets covered up and Big Pharma is still allowed to advertise their products on our television sets, okay? This is commonplace only in 2 countries in the world, the United States and I believe New Zealand. No other country allows Big Pharma advertising. This just absolutely enrages me, Kim, because it's obviously an agenda, and it's an agenda, a death agenda, a depop agenda that's being covered up actively by the mainstream media, and I would say even some aspects of our own government.
Well, Sean, yeah, I agree. But here's the thing. Did you hear the number? It's 73.9% died from after they received the COVID shot when they looked at the autopsies.
Yeah.
This is stunning. This is stunning information. And this is why Dr. McCullough, they tried to hush him up because he was telling the truth. And he, like many doctors who have brought the truth to light about the COVID vaccine, has been silenced. And the American Board of Internal Medicine, the ABIM, has revoked his board certification. So, it's not just the vaccines that we have to worry about. It's all pharmaceutical drugs. These pharmaceutical companies are looking to make a profit. Again, I just can't stress this enough. The bottom line is they're king for them. And it's, far more, they're not looking out for your best interests. I mean, there's some good guys interspersed in there somewhere probably, but the bottom line runs Big Pharma. And a lot of you may find this very surprising, but the third leading cause of death in the United States is prescription drug use. It's not because of overdoses or acute complications. It's about the gut microbiome and how these drugs affect the microbial diversity within our gut. Every time you take an antibiotic, every time you take a heartburn medication, those kill off the microbial diversity in your gut. And they allow for the more of the bad pathogens to flourish and prosper, and the good guys in your gut to die off. So more information is constantly coming out, Sean, about every day about how these drugs are killing that diversity, causing dysbiosis, which is being connected to chronic disease in all areas of our body. And dysbiosis is when that gut flora goes out of balance, causing a myriad of health issues.
I wonder how many people realize, Kim, that the hospitals have really become killing fields to the degree that so many deaths happen in the hospitals. And that happened in 2020. That happened during the lockdowns. People that thought they had COVID, they went to the hospitals and they themselves were locked down and separated from their loved ones. And given the protocols, which in the case of Grace Shera, that young woman with Down syndrome, Scott Shera's daughter, they killed her with the protocols. So look, I don't want to, be hyperbolic here, but when our prescription drugs are killing us in large numbers and the hospitals were killing fields during the lockdowns, I don't know how you don't notice. Again, I'm going to call this the great noticing, Kim Bright. This is the great noticing. People are finally waking up, but what on earth do we do about it?
Well, I mean, there's so many people that are dealing with early onset dementia, Alzheimer's disease, high blood pressure, high cholesterol, diabetes. The list goes on. And what most people don't realize is that your risk of all these diseases is directly related to your gut microbiome diversity. It must be strong. It must be strong. I mean, the gut microbiomes, they looked at people that were over 100 in Japan, and they're noted to be less susceptible to many infectious diseases, chronic inflammation, and age-related illnesses. These properties have been directly attributed to their distinct gut microbial structure. So you ask, what can we do about it? The number one thing you can do to protect yourself is increase your microbiome diversity by eating the king of fermented foods that has the most active good bacteria in it, over 900 strains, called kimchi. Now, not all fermented foods are created equal. I've been at this for over 50 years now, and I've studied fermented foods up one side and down the other. And I can tell you that kimchi, without a doubt, is the king of fermented foods because of it has over 900 unique beneficial strains of bacteria. Do you know, so many people say, well, I eat sauerkraut or I eat, I drink, eat yogurt. But sauerkraut, let me tell you, only has 28 strains of beneficial bacteria. We're talking 900 strains in kimchi. And there are so many studies about kimchi that show various health benefits. Kimchi's been around for centuries, and you definitely don't see the same studies about other fermented foods.
No. I take kimchi one every single day, as I said at the beginning of the show. And the reason I love having these conversations with you and others that tell the truth and sell good products is because, this news isn't brought to you like NBC Nightly News with Lester Holt is brought to you by Big Pharma. Insert Big Pharma ad here. We don't do that. We don't play that game in the truth media. We bring on people who sell healthful products like Kimchi One. And I think it's a no-brainer. And do you think I have it right that maybe part of the great noticing or the great awakening is the idea that we need to turn away from vaccines, pills, big pharma, and paper money and embrace natural cures, B17, Kimchi One, and silver and gold? I mean, it wouldn't be that hard to heal what ails us, but it's an uphill battle when it sort of seems like the entire apparatus is corrupt. I mean, we just touched the surface talking about big pharma, Kim.
Yeah, it goes back to doing what's been done for centuries. I mean, back to kimchi. A study that recently came out about kimchi highlights its heart benefits, and it was shown to reduce blood glucose, triglycerides, blood pressure, LDL cholesterol, and there's even been anti-aging studies done on this, where they put human cells in test tubes and they put the kimchi extract in these test tubes. And this study showed that when it was introduced to the human cells, it actually slowed the aging of cells. Slowing aging on that cellular level slows the aging of our tissues. And that's the combination of our cells, which ultimately is going to slow the aging of our entire body. So as you can see, going back to what worked for centuries, that there are so many benefits from kimchi. And that's why we created Kimchi One. Very easy to pronounce. Think of my name, Kim, and chi means energy. So, and Kim, it means golden energy. So Kimchi One, all of it. We go back to the gold standard here in our health. And we've made convenient capsules for daily use without the taste or the odor. Some people don't like the taste. Some people don't like the odor of kimchi. I happen to love it. But for those that don't, and they want something more convenient, they don't want to have to make it or buy it, we created Kimchi One capsules. And they have virtually no sodium. A lot of people have to watch their sodium. When you buy store-bought kimchi, it's high in sodium. We make it 100% here in the USA. It's all natural, non-GMO. And Sean, we have so many success stories of people using Kimchi One. I mean, these people had tremendous problems with digestion, regularity. They had problems with their immune system, and they used to get sick all the time. It's no wonder, right? There's so many of us, so many people are in chronic disease states. So now they're feeling better. They have younger looking skin. Their hair is thicker. And for people that couldn't lose weight, there's even a study showing that kimchi helped lower body fat by 31.8%. That's huge. And the amount of obese people that we have in the United States, listen up, 31.8% being reduced by a natural food is enormous. You don't have to take a pill. You don't have to go to Ozempic and go to the big pharma companies. Eat kimchi or take Kimchi One. And people who suffered from symptoms and couldn't pinpoint the cause, they're finally feeling better, Sean. So this is exciting. Go back to the natural foods, the real foods. Go back to, what worked.
Yeah. Well, it's a superfood, right? I mean, let's just cut to the chase. I mean, you can't have centenarians in Japan taking big pharma medication and eating GMO crap that's really not food. As RFK has pointed out, we have a lot of foods out there. They're not foods. They're products masquerading as foods. And that goes for most of the stuff in the middle of the grocery store in the aisles. It's all highly processed stuff in the United States. So this actually stands to reason, instead of turning to Ozempic, just eat real food, eat superfoods. And of course, you'll shed weight. I can give you a real world example. I should call my wife up. She recently retired and she's lost some weight just by not going into the office and eating a lunch with her friends every single day and drinking 2 Cokes. One with lunch, one later in the day when her blood sugar drops and she's exhausted. She's shed weight just by changing those habits alone. Imagine if everybody, well, you know what? It's expensive to eat organic. That's the other problem. That's how they got the tiger by the tail in this country. So many people are on the bubble financially. I could go back to that silver shot, help people understand why so many people are hurting. It's expensive to
Well,
eat
it's expensive.
well.
It's expensive from a viewpoint, yes, but it's also less expensive overall. You can pay me now or you can pay me later.
That's true.
This is what people have to think about, because if you can go out and support local farmers, you can go to farms and get organic foods if you live near those, and they're far less expensive than buying them in a grocery store, which marks them up. Or, even a stand, a farm stand you can go to where you're going to pay a lot less, or you can grow your own. It doesn't take a lot to grow some foods that you enjoy and love in your backyard. And you know that you're getting good food. So to say it's more expensive, I have to take you to task with that, because I've done this for 50 years, help people. And I will tell you that it's far more expensive, not only to the person, because his body degrades eating things like the Cokes and Coca-Colas, because he has no energy or she has no energy. She can't sleep. She doesn't get the nutrients, those dense nutrients that are found in organically grown foods and good supplements. They're not getting the nutrition they need. So how really are they living in a day-to-day world? And then ultimately they have to go get surgeries, or they have to get on so many prescription drugs that they can't function. And then who's paying for all of this? Ultimately is all of us, the taxpayers. So you can pay me now or you can pay me later. We need to look at the broader view here, Sean. And ultimately, it's far cheaper, far healthier to eat well and eat real food.
No, you make a really good point. It is more expensive to treat your body poorly for decades, because you will ultimately pay the price. I was just sort of driving at the point that in the inner cities, in so many parts of this country, it's difficult to get access to good food. We're sort of blessed in my area. We've got these gas stations called Quick Trip. They're family owned, and they have high quality products in there, little mini grocery stores. And I made the point to my wife, if you were on food stamps, if you're really having trouble on SNAP benefits, and say you're a single mom, instead of going to Walmart and picking out all that crap in the middle of the aisle, honestly, if you just went to Quick Trip and you bought bananas, milk, organic eggs, and sourdough bread, you could feed your kids pretty healthfully on those low-priced, healthy items. But a lot of those
rice and beans are so incredible. Throw a little bit of seaweed in there. I mean, this is where RFK Jr., he just gave a whole talk on this a few hours ago with the Agriculture Secretary as well. And they are going after making this food accessible to everyone, including inner city people. They are going to make SNAP where you can buy more of these types of foods. That you'll probably hear about it or read some things later on today. But they are intent on having everyone have access to healthy foods.
Diets rich in vegetables and fruits reduce disease risk more effectively than many drugs. Whole grains outperform refined carbohydrates. Added sugars, especially sugar-sweetened beverages, drive metabolic disease, and today our government declares war on added sugar. Highly processed foods loaded with additives, added sugar, and excess salt damage health and should be avoided. As Secretary of Health and Human Services, my message is clear: eat real food.
That would change our country. See, baby steps to take our country back. That one is a big one. That one is a big one. And you know what? Could you just leave us with your thoughts, a bit of advice, even for me? Honestly, I'm truly asking for your advice regarding this divide in MAGA. The gloves are sort of coming off. People are really upset for a variety of different reasons. And I want to remain hopeful. Again, I don't want to be Debbie Downer, but at the same time, I'm very much a realist. When the Pentagon budget is over $1 trillion a year, guys, that's a nation state unto itself. And honestly, what Candace is finding out in her investigation is the tentacles of the military-industrial complex come way down to Main Street. way more far spread tentacles than I ever dreamed. But of course, then when you think about $1 trillion budget, that completely stands to reason. So give us some hope on this divide in MAGA.
Sean, here's the thing. I always like to look on the bright side. And the bright side is with the climbing out of the deep swamp that Trump is attempting to do, and he is doing it. And with people like RFK Jr. and all of his cabinet, I think we finally got people that are going to contribute to the upward motion of climbing out of the swamp. Yes, it's going to take time. People, be realistic. Do you know how many years it took us to get this deep in the swamp?
Yeah.
Please be realistic and stop focusing on what's going wrong and focus on what's going right. And the other thing that I would leave you with too is that focus on your own things that you can have control over. If you have more energy, if you can sleep better, if you're not dealing with heart problems and diabetes and obesity by eating something like kimchi one, and you are realigning your gut where you have that diversity in your microbiome, and you are making yourself healthier on your own just by doing this one thing. Make your own kimchi if you want to. Go get some at the store if you don't want to take pills. But if you want convenience, then take kimchi one on an everyday basis, rebuild that gut back. And I'd like to give your viewers today a special, Sean, that if they go to mybrightcore.com/SGT, they're going to get 25% off with the code SGT. But what I really want you to do, call in and talk to our people who are trained to answer your questions, make you understand how this works in your body, make sure that you understand that it's going to be a good fit for you. Call us at 888-688-0642. We want to talk to you. That's an unusual thing in this day and age, but we do want to talk to you. So we're also going to incentivize you. We're going to give you up to 50% off your order, plus free shipping when you call in. And if you're one of the first 100 callers, we're also going to throw in a free bottle of vitamin D3 plus K2. So again, that number is 888-688-0642. And let's nourish ourselves first. Let's concentrate on our own health. And we can do that by getting that gut in good working order. And that's going to affect our health everywhere else in our body, including our brain and how we think about things. And stay positive, because I think the climb out of the swamp is going to occur.
Well, I sure hope so. And, I do want to see the bright side. I'm just such a pragmatist. I know you are too, but literally it gets hard to get out of bed every morning if you don't see our cup as at least half full. And what I would say regarding Maduro, Venezuela, all that stuff that's going on is that I do recognize, guys, that China is a problem. China had its fingers, its tentacles in Venezuela. I get it. We have to protect this part of the hemisphere because I think we have entered sort of a silent World War IV at this point. It's quite alarming. But I'll say this, one last word about the people I bring on this show and people who sponsor the show like SD Bullion. You want to get real money? SD Bullion. You want to get real healthful? Kim Bright, Brightcore, mybrightcore.com. The link is below. Would you just tell people when they order Kimchi One what the regimen is for ultimate health? How many pills a day? How many times a day?
3 a day. That, with all the studies that I've researched, and the people were taking that amount in eating kimchi, that Kimchi One in capsules, 3 capsules a day, fits the bill. And you will see results very quickly. You're going to see it on the outside in your skin, your hair. You're going to feel better. You're going to see it in your regularity. You're going to see it in your digestion. You're going to have more energy, sleep better. All kinds of things are going to really take place. So I hope that they take advantage of this. And thank you very much for having me on, Sean, again.
Yeah. Happy New Year. It's good to see you.
Happy New Year to you too.
Yeah. Let's pray for a really bountiful 2026. It kind of feels like it could go either way at this point, but let's pray for peace to prevail on this planet, and let's pray for health. Our health is our wealth. And to that end, Kimchi One, I take it every single day. By the way, my latest guest, Patty V, she came on. She takes Kimchi One. She brought that up. She's a fan of yours. That was my most recent interview that I just
Wow.
posted. So
well,
yeah,
thank
Patty
you for
V.
sharing that.
Yeah, you bet. Patty
Thank
V.
you.
Patty V loves you and takes Kimchi One as I do as well. All right. Kim, thank you so much. God bless you.
God bless you too.
All right. Appreciate you. All right. There she goes, friends. Kim Bright, mybrightcore.com. The link is below. Get the discount. Use the code SGT. We appreciate you guys every single day for tuning in. Thank you so much. And I'll remind you, every single day for free. Check us out to get the real news, the antidote to corporate propaganda, and what I call Mockingbird mainstream media CIA lies. You can get the antidote to all of that at sgtreport.com. And it's all free, guys, 24/7. Thanks for tuning in. God bless. Bye-bye.
And you're seeing it's like a chess game, and they're moving their pawns, they're putting their players right on the board, they're taking them and placing them and setting us up for checkmate. Setting us up for checkmate, absolutely. We're being ruled by children, psychopaths, and pedophiles. That's so real. People, oh, no, that can't be that. Hello, wake up.